Hey everyone, Stee-da-man here with another Gran Turismo Sport video. You can see we're going into our daily race B with the GT4 cars around the Dragon Trail 2 track. My safety rating had dropped down to A, so I wanted to start from the back. As you can see there, I didn't put qualifying time in, just to get my safety rating up. So we come into this race, I've chosen the very sexy BMW M4 GT4 car. Nah, enough of that. Let's get into this race. So, looking ahead, we have our British driver, our Dutch driver, and our Romanian driver ahead of us. And what you want to do when you're doing a race like this, you're starting from the back, you want to look at the drivers, see how they're driving. Are they going to be risky to overtake? Are they going to dive bomb you? And you're kind of looking at that, and you want to decide whether they're safe enough to overtake in certain places. You don't want to be overtaking them before a hairpin where you're just going to get punched off the track. So we're looking at our British driver Tom here, and just off the bat he goes and does that. So we already know we have a fair bit of risk to try and overtake this guy. So just make him think we're going for a move, hang back, because I know I'm not going to be able to get the move done in the chicane, and I have to choose where I'm going to overtake this guy. If he's going to be like that and not brake well enough or deliberately hit people, I want to try and avoid any carnage that he's going to unleash. So we get a move done here, but not the greatest. You can see in the radar he goes away, hits the other car, comes back in on our inside, and actually punches us off the track. So I made the mistake that I was hoping I wouldn't, which was overtaking him at completely the wrong time. But we didn't get completely destroyed. We're still in 14th, which is better than what we were anyway. So we'll try and catch up and get our sweet revenge on Tom there. So coming through these sweeping bends, not my strongest area of the track. I'd always lose a bit of time, but you can see some mistakes were made up here. We start catching up with the Audi TT. I think about the move. I went to hold back, but then he took the corner completely wrong, so we get that move done. We move up into 13th. Coming around here, trying to catch up with the Peugeot RCZ. Coming into this final little chicane before the final straight. I try and take this as straight as possible, cut that curb, get as straight a line out, and it works beautifully past the Peugeot and Tom there in the Lamborghini getting his, I was about to say instant karma. It wasn't quite instant, but maybe deserved, I think, wiping himself out with his own mistakes. So moving up into 11th, we're behind the Audi TT here in the Toyota. Trying not to hit into them. We get punched from behind by the driver behind us, so slightly take that corner a bit wider than I wanted to, but we get the cutback on about 3 of our drivers there. So we move into 10th here behind the Peugeot. So coming into this chicane is just an absolute generator of carnage in this track. But we managed to get through it a second time with no incidents. The Peugeot takes it weirdly, so we managed to get a move done on him and on the Audi TT here almost. Didn't quite outbrake the Romanian here in the Audi TT. But we settle in behind him. Never had quite enough power up this hill in this race. I didn't ever get up this hill faster than the other drivers. I think it's because of my car choice. I did this race in the Viper, and the Viper was absolutely insane on the straight, so car choice is very important here. We got our first incident here coming along our sweeping bends. The Audi TT just completely bends it, hits me and goes off the track. We have another incident in the next race I have lined up where exactly the same corner someone hits into me, gets binned off the track. So we get punched a little bit wide there by the German driver in the Toyota. We take out the Peugeot and we settle into 10th again. So struggling to get out of 10th position here. Knowing that the Toyota's got really bad straight line speed, I try and get a good line out of there. We managed to do it, and it's a drag race to the finish line here. So just coming up along beside him. A lot of the time if you're on the outside you lose a little bit of time, but it doesn't seem to affect the Beamer here. So we managed to get fully in front of him, as you can see from the radar. And we come into this first corner, down to 3rd, try and cut it as tight as possible. I slightly overdo it, almost go too wide out into the grass like our Romanian driver ahead of us. we don't quite, we just stay on the curb. So coming up to the chicane again, trying to take it as fast as possible, brake early, down to 5th, as straight a line through it as possible. The Romanian hitting the wall there, so losing a lot of speed. So we start to catch up with him very quickly, make it look like I'm going on the outside, go for a move on the inside, and I just slightly overdo it, push him a bit wide. But nothing horrific happens, so we get that move done into 7th, and up the hill again, and you can see, even though we came out of that corner slightly faster than him, he just starts to gain on us just that little bit. He's not too close for these sweeping bends, so down to 5th, trying to regulate my speed down through these bends, brake a little bit down to 4th to get through this final sweeping right-hander, but you can see I lose that time again, and the Romanian driver's right behind me again. So just trying to get this move done right. Down to 2nd into this left-hand turn. Still right behind me, the Romanian driver, coming into the final couple corners here. So long as I can execute these enough, I should be able to defend these corners. So down to 3rd, take it as straight as possible, accelerate out, and we managed to get a load of time on him. You can see the split time there on the left of the screen, going up to about a second ahead of him. So well executed by me. I'm patting myself on the back as I speak. So coming into our final lap, we now settle into 7th. So pretty much just looks like a comfortable finish in 7th. Coming out of this corner as fast as possible. I can see the other driver ahead of me. So just skipping ahead towards the end of lap 4, and you can see there just the back end of some battle that's been taking place. And we just started to drastically catch up with our Russian driver here in 6th. So we're coming up behind him here, brake for the corner. You can see he just messes the corner up, so we come out, we exit that corner much faster than he does, and we go for the move on the inside here. I couldn't tell whether he was giving me that space or if he was trying to defend the inside of that sweeping corner. I couldn't quite tell, but I almost overdo it on that final chicane. But we still managed to get a little bit more speed out of that corner than he does, so we approach the finish line here comfortably in 6th. So not a bad result given the fact that the M4, this track isn't its strong suit. Going from dead last to 6th is not bad at all. So managing a fair few overtakes, even a little bit of carnage, managing to survive some carnage. But I was a bit sick and tired of all the carnage, to be fair. So I wanted to hop in and do a qualifying time, as you can see here. As I mentioned already, the M4 GT4 car, this track isn't its strong suit, so I hopped into the Corvette, much more efficient with its straight line speed. So we come into this one. I've already tried a couple times, as you can see on the right of the screen. I currently have a 1 minute 47.535 time. So we come through the chicane here as straight as possible, accelerating through as much of it as we possibly can. We're already 0.12 ahead of ourselves here. Braking here down into 2nd and sweeping through, clipping that corner and accelerating out as early as possible up the hill. You can see we lost a bit of time already on myself, so technically my qualifying time at the end of this lap could be that little bit better had I taken that corner faster. So just regulating my speed down these sweeping bends, dropping to 4th, accelerating through this corner. You can see we're now almost 0.4 seconds now, almost 0.5 seconds ahead of ourselves here. Dropping to 2nd for this left-hander. We're already about, well, we're 0.7 ahead of ourselves now, so it's looking really, really good. Coming up around this sweeping bend to our final chicane, dropping down to 3rd, taking it as straight as possible across that curb, hitting that curb slightly, accelerating as early as possible out of it. And you can see we're still gaining time out of this straight, so we managed to take that corner fairly well. So 0.78 ahead of myself. Coming across the line, we get a 1 minute 46.748. So really, really good time. We'll see what it gives me in the grid. So daily race B again, hopping into here, M4 GT4, and as you can see straight away with the M4 there happily sitting in second, flashing its lights away, that I qualified second. So much better position to start the race in. We'll see if we can go for the victory here. So starting behind the Spanish driver and the Italian driver behind me. We'll see if we can get these gear changes right. I found that if you change from first to second as best as you possibly can, you can catch a little bit of time on the Audi TTs. So we'll try our best to catch up with Kings in Arms here and hopefully split away from the pack behind us, maybe even get away from the Italian driver that you can see there in the Scirocco behind me. So coming into the first left-hander, I end up getting a better exit out of it than the Audi TT, so you can see there just coming up behind him, and he moves out to the left to try and entice me out to the left, but I didn't quite feel tempted to follow him out there, because I know I can get a little bit of time if I stick right beside the wall. So again, braking early, trying to stay as straight as possible through there. He takes the corners really weird, does not take them as straight as he can. So I go in for the move here, manage to keep in front of him, but he pushes the back end of the car out there, but we still manage to save it, and we settle into first. So looking really good to begin with. Coming up to the part of the track that I'm not quite comfortable with, as I've shown before. So down to fifth, trying to regulate my speed into this corner here, because you want to be out here to cut into this final corner, but you can see I didn't quite execute it because the Audi is now right behind me again. He goes for the inside. I decide I don't want to defend it just yet. It's too early in the race. The Italian behind us is still really close to us, so if we end up battling too much, we're going to be fighting the racers behind us, so we don't want to be doing that. We want to just keep the pace up. And you can see here, slightly mess up this corner, but I managed to get it much faster than Kings in Arms. So I go for the move, and I settle into first again. So it's really just a game of leapfrog between me and the Audi TT for now. So coming into lap 2, we come to our hairpin down here. He goes for the inside. I decide I don't want to defend it again. Let's just keep the pace. You'll notice here I could have got on the power a little bit earlier, but we're still catching up with him. And he goes for another, tries to entice me out to the left again. But I decide no, I'm going to stay by the wall, and you can see I'm still catching up with him. So down to fifth, take it as straight as possible through here. He slightly drifts it. We start catching him again here. So I think about a move just ever so slightly, but it makes me hesitate with the brakes, so I almost hit into him, and I managed to avoid it. So we're still here comfortably behind him, catching him up a little bit. But coming up to these bends that I've pointed out so many times that I'm not great at. Here's an incident that I want to show you. So just, you can see him braking there. I'll show you from this angle here. So he brakes, I'm now right behind him. I start braking here, as you can see. He flicks out and back in and just touches the front of my car, and then shoots across the grass there on the inside, and then bins it on the opposite end of the track. And you can see it here from my angle, just a tiny little touch from when he flicked out and back in again, and he bins it. And you can see here just behind me there, he flashes his lights. I'm in two minds about whether that was my fault, or I couldn't quite see how that tiny touch on the back of his car was the reason that he completely flew across that part of the track. I feel like he wasn't quite reducing his speed enough, as well as getting touched by the front of my car. So not placing any blame anywhere, it's just one of those things that happens in racing. So we settle into first. We're now almost 3 seconds ahead of the Scirocco, who's now in second. So just jumping ahead to about halfway through the final lap, you can see here, just taking this corner, you can see I'm comfortably in first, so I'm just taking the corner as comfortably as I want to, just because there's no point of risking it. I'm about 3 seconds ahead of second place, the Scirocco there behind me, so I don't want to be risking it, overdoing it like I do so many times on that corner, and then risking losing the race. I'm in first, and you don't want to lose that once you've got it, and you don't want to try so hard that that's specifically the reason that you lose it. Jumping ahead to the final straight, again we're still about 3 seconds ahead of the Scirocco, and we come to the finish line here in first place. So completely different races, one from right at the back of the pack to 6th, one from qualifying 2nd to remaining in 1st for most of the race. Whether or not that's because I murdered the guy in 1st, then, you know, it still benefited me. I didn't get penalized for that. You can't say anything. But really enjoyed these 2 races. The GT4 race, I love Dragon Trail. I would have loved it in GT3 cars, but I really enjoyed this as well. You can see the victory page there. That probably added to my enjoyment, I think. I had great fun in these 2 races, and if you want to see more Gran Turismo Sport gameplay, then go check out my channel and like and subscribe if you'd like to see more in the future. And so I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you next time.